Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video, after the latest from the live radar, run through the latest weather warnings, as we have got numerous weather warnings issued for the coming days, as we do see the transition towards a severe and prolonged cold spell, which is likely to arrive just as we head into the new year. As that does arrive, we do see numerous areas of low pressure interacting along that very strong temperature gradient, seeing some storms potentially through Monday, Tuesday. Nothing named at the moment, but lots of yellow warnings issued. And then potentially on New Year's Day, we see some proper interaction between a storm system and cold air, blizzards perhaps in the north. Eventually all of that clears for Thursday and Friday, and then we see exceptionally cold north to northeasterly winds moving in. We'll look at that in detail on the latest UKV. Lots of things to go through today, as we have got so many different hazards from rain, wind and heavy snow, and of course exceptionally cold temperatures by the end of the week. -10 to -15 degrees could be seen through Thursday and Friday night. And then we'll finish the video by having a look at the longer range charts, but of course lots of disruption this week, but into the following week we're all going to be in this exceptionally cold air mass. Lots of runs producing little channel lows, areas of instability, and again we could see further heavy, widespread and disruptive snow as we head into next weekend and into the following week. Of course, it's not set in stone. It is still longer range, 7 to 10 day time period. But at the moment, I must say about 80 to 90% of runs we will look at are on board with both a prolonged but also severely cold spell arriving for the first week or two of January. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in description. Now, if you start on the live radar, the last kind of mundane day we have probably for a couple of weeks. We have got generally pretty dry conditions at the moment across much of southern areas, but that is losing its strength. That is still where we've got a little bit of the higher pressure that have given us our fairly cloudy, foggy, but also equally fairly dry conditions throughout the Christmas period. It is slipping away now to our south. We are starting to see the jet stream sinking southwards once again in its start across northern Scotland, and eventually by the end of the week it's cleared to our south, and that's when the very cold air plunges in. We are seeing a bit of rain across the north at the moment. This is where we've got the dividing line between cold air and the mild air. The very cold air is still up towards Iceland and to the north of Scandinavia. It's not close by yet, but in the next couple of days it will slowly edge in. By Wednesday it is looking like to be sort of hovering through northern areas across Scotland, Northern England, Northern Ireland. That's where we could see blizzards. Also, with this change, I know a lot of people will be really quite annoyed with the lack of sunshine, lack of blue skies. At the moment, it is slowly heading in these bluer skies and a bit of sunshine. The far southeast may struggle today because those clearer slots might arrive after sunset, but definitely into early next week. Yes, disruption around with heavy rain, wind and snow, but there will be some sunnier breaks. So we do see lots more transitions in air masses. Now, if you look at the temperatures, you can see where the cloud and fog still lingers across the far southeast, because that's where it's coldest. That's where that cold air is still trapped at the surface. There is a chance it clears, perhaps just around sunset, but I'm in London, I can look out the window right now, and it is still foggy and gloomy. But you can see further northwards, slightly warmer temperatures, milder temperatures, as we do see actually a colder upper air mass moving through. But it is combined with a bit of sunshine, allowing those temperatures to rise ever so slightly. But as I said, this is all going to change. We are going to see those exceptionally cold northerly winds. You can already see Iceland is around -15 to -20 degrees around lunchtime, which is pretty symbolic of the air mass that will be soon moving in. Now, if you go over to the weather warnings, we do have numerous weather warnings issued for much of this working week. Of course, we've got bank holiday on Wednesday, but for the week we have got numerous weather warnings, and I suspect we're going to see weather warnings issued for pretty much every single day for the next week or two. That's how it looks like it's going to be setting up. As I said, by the end of the week, severe cold and snow will be arriving. Now for Monday, we've got this rain and snow warning. We've looked at this for the last couple of days, not in too much detail, as we don't think it's going to be an exceptionally high risk, but we are going to see some heavy rain, potentially 50 to 70 millimetres up to 100 millimetres across a couple of days. It's been a fairly dry last couple of weeks. We're not expecting major river flooding right now, maybe later this week, but right now, Monday and Tuesday, not expecting anything too major, but there is still a lot of heavy rain that is going to fall, so there could still be issues. Of course, we have got cold air slowly sinking in, but it's not exceptionally cold yet, so we're only expecting snow over the highest ground, a couple hundred metres above sea level, expecting accumulating snow. You can see it is medium impact and low likelihood, so there is a possibility of it moving up to amber, but I suspect amber warnings will be issued for Wednesday and Thursday. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. We also have a wind warning issued across parts of northern England here, where we are going to see some very strong winds over the higher ground there across the spine of northern England, again for Monday afternoon. Again, elsewhere, going to see some stronger winds, but this is where it looks likely to be focused. Got similar warnings into Tuesday, but we've got a couple of other warnings now issued. A snow warning issued here for the far northern Isles of Scotland. Again, we are expecting heavy snow here, significant snow perhaps, up to 20 centimetres. And again, this is because that very cold air moves in, and being this far northwards, we are going to be in the exceptionally cold air for much of the week. Wind warnings issued for Northern Ireland here, for most of Northern Ireland, 50 to 60, maybe up to 70. I don't suspect we'll see amber warnings issued for wind, as wind is going to be a hazard, but I don't think it's going to be the main hazard. I think precipitation, either rain or snow, is going to be the main hazard, but still going to see some very strong winds, and that could exacerbate impacts, especially with the snow. Blizzards are looking really quite possible on Wednesday. But yes, wind warning here, 50 to 60, up to 70. You can see it as medium likelihood, low impact at the moment. So unless we see major upgrades in the actual wind speeds we're expecting, don't suspect we'll see an amber. And the same for this larger warning across southern Scotland and northern England. Again, we're looking at 50 to 60, maybe up to 70. And then Wednesday could be the severe impact day, where we have got this widespread blanket wind warning issued from southern and eastern Scotland down towards the southwest and southeast of England from 9 a.m. on Wednesday until 6 a.m. on Thursday. Wouldn't be surprised if this got broken up. Perhaps amber warnings may be issued in a couple of spots, as we do have medium impact and very low likelihood, so all we need is a rise in likelihoods to see amber warnings, so perhaps a wind warning there being upgraded. But at the moment, I suspect it will mostly be the snow warnings, maybe the rain warnings that go up to amber, maybe later this week. But again, we'll have to wait and see. It's still a number of days away. We are looking again at 50 to 60, but more importantly, up to 75 as possible. Slight increase there into Wednesday. Rain warning issued across Wales at the moment. As I have said over the last couple of days, the area of snow, the freezing level where that sets up, could shift northwards or southwards. At the moment, the last day, it's not shifted too much, maybe a few tens of miles, but nothing significant. So at the moment, we are expecting Wales to mostly be in the rain, at least for New Year's Day. Maybe a bit of snow into the 2nd of January on the back edge of the system, and of course snow showers piling in after that, but initially we are expecting rain, 20 to 40, maybe 60 to 80. Again, expecting this to probably stay as a single yellow warning. And then we have severe snow warnings issued here. Again, medium impact, very low likelihood. Do suspect these could be upgraded to amber, especially the one across northern England, southern Scotland. Looking at widely, a few centimetres of snow, up to 15 to 20 centimetres. And again, it is quite uncertain because it is all where that freezing level sets up. It is going to be exceptionally cold air, so if you are in that cold air, there'll be no problem seeing it falling to sea level. But the gradient between where it falls to sea level and where it falls at 500 metres is going to be very steep, maybe only 10 or 20 miles because of the clash in air masses. And then, of course, a similar snow warning here issued for much of southern Scotland and northern England. Again, we're looking at 2 to 5 centimetres widely, and then up to 10 centimetres, possibly up to 15 or 25. You see a load of numbers being thrown here, because if we're being completely honest, we're not quite sure yet, and that is because of the uncertainty in that freezing level. But again, medium impact, very low likelihood. Likelihood will increase over the next couple of days, so I suspect somewhere within this, where we see the most cold air arriving with the heaviest precipitation, we will see an amber warning issued. And then finally into Thursday, we've got those warnings still remaining, but I suspect new warnings will be issued, especially for northern and eastern areas, as we do start to see those snow showers piling in, and the risk further southwards as all of this precipitation clears. If we do see an undercut, we could see some falling snow. Don't suspect we'll see accumulating snow because we've had some pretty mild air across southern areas through Monday, Tuesday, but definitely could see it cool down very quickly towards the latter part of the week. Now, to go over to the latest UKV, we're going to be able to see there's an eclectic mix now of conditions over the coming days. Again, don't take this UKV run as gospel. It could still change, but especially Monday through to Wednesday, we've got fairly high confidence in now. I think tomorrow we'll look at some more high resolution runs, or at least Monday, Tuesday, we'll look at some more high resolution runs to get a better cross-model consensus, but it's still a little bit too early for some of the best runs, like the Arome and Arpege, to quite have a look at this. So probably through tomorrow or Tuesday, especially for the New Year's Day blizzards, that's when I think we will look at this in a little bit more detail. Now, as we head through the rest of today, still fairly mundane, a bit of heavier rain across Scotland, maybe a bit of snow over the highest ground, but we're not expecting any major snow as of yet. Perhaps Monday evening, we could expect some further snow across far north of Scotland there, as we do see reinforcements of precipitation moving in. But at the moment, highest ground expected, maybe low-lying areas across the far north. But here, even here, it is going to be fairly marginal because of that exceptionally high temperature gradient. Further southwards, it's still pretty mild. It's through Tuesday, and eventually the snow line does actually clear northern Scotland for a short period of time during Tuesday, but the very cold air starts to wrap back in through Tuesday evening, and this is where we could see some very cold conditions there to start 2025. Snow showers packing in. You can see all the showers out in the North Sea and North Atlantic to the north of Scotland are falling as snow, which is indicative of how cold the air mass is, but it's this area of low pressure that arrives that could cause significant snow. Now, I do think there is a possibility of this seeing a name in the next day or so, and that's because of the snow impacts, simply because on New Year's Day, bank holiday, and into the second, we could be seeing perhaps a foot of snow in places, heavy rain, strong winds, all these things come together to be a really nasty system. Now, initially, through Wednesday morning, heavy snow across much of the Republic of Ireland into Northern Ireland, but I suspect, as you can see, the freezing level does rise, so it goes back to higher ground as the weather front moves northwards. You can see the really dark pinks and purples appearing there through northern England, exceptionally heavy snow, but of course, very marginal, especially on the southern edge here. Could definitely see some mixing, ice, sleet, coming in with that. You can see, though, the weather front doesn't move much northwards, so if you're across the north of Scotland, it's going to be snow showers. Not expecting any significant snow, really. It's this point, southern Scotland, northern England, there, especially Scottish borders, that's where you could see the heaviest snow. Eventually clearing east, and as it does, could be a bit of back-edge snow across further parts of England and Wales, and then we see the exceptionally cold northerly winds plunging in, with snow showers coming in for northern and eastern coastal regions. Again, we'll have to wait and see for later this week exact key details with snow showers, little areas of instability, as those will crop up nearer the time. But as I said, into the latter part of the week, look at this, -7 to -10 degrees at 850 HPA, and even colder air sitting just to our northeast, ready to move in. Dew points well below freezing. Look at this, -15 degree dew points there across southern Scotland, northern England. Suspect that's to do with where we've got heavy snow cover, but regardless, still exceptionally cold. And look at some of these snow depths. Again, over the highest ground, could see a foot or two of snow. More low-lying areas could see more towards 10 to 20 centimetres, maybe up towards a foot, which is 25 to 30 centimetres or so. So yeah, exceptionally cold and snowy conditions for northern areas. But if you are further southwards at the moment, it doesn't look like there's going to be immediate wintry impacts, at least until kind of Thursday. But later on, definitely some big signs of some snow next weekend and early next week. Still a little bit too early, though, to put details on that, as we could see some more southerly tracking lows arriving, as I said, later on. Now, do look at the max temperatures, and then we'll have a look at the wind gusts just to finish off. Next couple of days, actually pretty mild for most. Look at this, 8 to 10 degrees. Average to slightly above average. Nothing really too noticeable. Into Monday, very cold across northern Scotland. You can almost see that temperature gradient, but for most, still fairly mild. Into Tuesday, that cold air does start to push in for further regions, especially through the evening in northern areas. Widespread frost, freezing the ground on the arrival of the snow. Elsewhere, though, further southwards, much milder. And then look at Wednesday. Look at that temperature gradient. I've been banging on about it. But North Wales, Northwest England towards Liverpool, 10, 11 degrees. You go 50 miles further northwards and eastwards, -2. Just showing you how strong that temperature gradient is. Even more apparent there across the Rub of Ireland. 12 degrees, 13 degrees across Southern Ireland. You head up towards parts of Central Republic of Ireland, freezing or below freezing. Exceptionally strong temperature gradient, and you can see that on the upper air temperature level. And that's just fueling the precipitation, meaning it's even heavier, but very marginal. Later on, though, that cold air sweeps in for all, and look at Thursday afternoon. Exceptionally cold day. Where we've been in the cold air, further northwards, widely below freezing with snow cover, -5 degree high potentially. Further southwards, where it's been milder, 3 or 4 degrees, but that's just as the ground is cooling down. And as we head into Friday, widespread frost, where we've got snow on the ground, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Northern England and Scotland, widely down to -5 to maybe -15. Exceptionally cold. Elsewhere, with lesser snow cover, and with the cold air's only just moved in the past sort of 12 to 24 hours in the east and the south, more towards just hovering around freezing. So still cold, but not exceptionally cold yet. If you do funny finish by looking at the max wind gusts, you can see it is going to be fairly strong winds over the coming days, but not expecting anything, out of this world. Perhaps into New Year's Day, you can see that some very strong winds do arrive in the far south, but of course that's where we're not going to see the heaviest rain or snow. So kind of swapping impacts there. Not seeing the heavy rain or snow, but seeing the strong winds. So perhaps further southwards, where it's milder, very little rain, very little snow, we are going to see the strongest winds. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how this play out and what warnings we see issued. But we're not expecting, 80, 90 miles per hour, which we can see from named storms during the winter, but still very strong and potentially disruptive. Now finally, if we finish by having a look at some of the longer range runs. Now of course, it wouldn't be a GFS run without a bit of a wobble. And the GFS 6 o'clock run today is a little bit of a wobble in the long-term prospects of a colder spell. And it's all due to the fact of southerly tracking lows. We've seen these issues before in prior years, but it's kind of the first run that I've seen for this colder spell where it's done this pattern. We'll show you it now. I will caveat though, most runs still showing a very cold blocked pattern, and I'll show you why this GFS run breaks that down in around a week's time or so. Now it's very similar to the last few days, with all these lows clearing along the jet stream boundary, that low arriving for New Year's Day clearing, an exceptionally cold northerly wind arriving, and you see the high pressure moving towards Greenland and very cold northerly winds pushing in. Now watch this low pressure system here. This low pressure system sat out in the mid-Atlantic. Most runs, including the GFS, in the last couple of days, cleared this eastwards. Potentially some snow on its northern edge, but cleared it eastwards, kept us in this exceptionally cold pattern. However, today, it heads further northwards, wraps within the cold air to the north, mild air to the south, could give a major snow event in places, but eventually it unlocks the door to Atlantic flow, and we actually do go milder into the following week. Still cold, initially still snowy, but not a sustained colder pattern, and we're kind of the only area on this latitude where it is mild. And that is because that block isn't quite strong enough towards Greenland, and we see the jet stream just heading northwards right to our southwest in the Bay of Biscay, and it means that we go slightly milder. Now again, I think this has got a very low chance of happening, but the fact that it's showing up means it's not zero, because if we do go to the midnight run and just look at that, which was on board with an exceptionally cold pattern, see those northerly winds arriving, that low that did head northwards and eastwards on the 6 o'clock run heads just straight eastwards, giving heavy snow where it does occur, but the block holds on. And look, we stay in that northeasterly flow with these lows still blocked to our south. It is close to going milder, but that mild air always stays to our south because that block is stronger and those lows travel that much further southwards. So it's not a given that it's exceptionally cold at this stage, but the majority of runs are still showing it. The GEMs certainly is. If we do look at that quickly, again, they're all very similar, and of course we are focusing on the shorter range, and I don't want to make this video too long, so we won't look at these in too much detail today. But regardless, very cold conditions coming in later this week, that northerly wind arriving, exceptionally blocked and snowy, none of these lows in the mid-Atlantic pushing in, and as you can see, just lots of lower pressure, exceptionally cold air moving in from the northeast, and it remains exceptionally cold, exceptionally blocked and snowy all the way to day 10. And with this block towards Greenland and Iceland, no signs of this changing. With a flat easterly, heavy snow showers would be piling in off the North Sea. You can see that here. Snow streamers pushing in. Snow depth, look at this, quite extensive snow depth. And again, this doesn't always take into all of the convection. So yeah, would be exceptionally cold and snowy from the GM today. And so it is from the ECM, though we have some regard the best model. You can see, again, those lows arriving through this week. Again, we've looked at those extensively on the UKV. And then eventually the northeasterly winds properly arrive later on into next weekend. A bit more high pressure dominated with the block slightly further eastwards, which may mean there's a slight reduction in snow showers. But eventually we do see those northeasterly or easterly winds and repeated northerly or northeasterly winds there. Unfortunately, it's not loading those last few frames, but at 312 hours, Saturday the 11th of January, this is after already 7 to 10 days of cold air. You can already see northeasterly winds are reloading, and we're likely to go exceptionally cold once again. Look at this, temperatures still well below freezing, and by day still hovering around freezing as well. So exceptionally cold pattern there from the ECM that we have today. Just to finish by looking at the GFS, 6 o'clock run, definitely a bit of wobbling within the ensembles as well. You see very cold later this week, this is for London of course, and then as we head into early the following week, there is a little bit of a milder trend from some of the runs, and that's with that low pressure system potentially arriving. Still a big block that are very cold and sustained, but there are quite a few that go milder. Now if I looked in this in isolation, I'd say, oh, there's a bit of a major wobble going on here. But I go back to the midnight run, look at that, very few milder runs, mostly very cold. 6 PM run, very similar. Midday run, very, very similar again. Very blocked and very cold. So unless this 6 o'clock GFS run has suddenly caught onto something, then I think it's just a bit of a wobble in this one individual run. So I think the midday run later will be one to keep a very, very close eye on. Because the GFS, there's a very low chance that the GFS could, in just the last of 6 to 12 hours, caught onto something that could halt any longevity in this colder spell. But again, we'll have to see some support from other runs into later today. ECM operational, look at this, very strong consistency in exceptionally cold pattern. Yes, there are a few milder runs around the same period, but about 5 to 10 within an ensemble suite of 50. Majority is still exceptionally cold and blocked all the way towards almost the middle of January. So again, we'll have to wait and see. Definitely looking very likely to be a very cold spell and pretty likely to be prolonged, i.e. more than kind of 4 or 5 days. But we have got that little wobble there, perhaps around the 5th, 6th of January that the GFS is toying with today. It is only the 6 o'clock run that is toying with it. All other runs in the past 24 hours are still very blocked and prolonged. All the other suites, the GEM and the ECWF, are very cold and blocked. So it is just that GFS 6 o'clock runs that are wobbling a little bit. So again, we don't want to ignore it because it could happen, but I will just stress it is just one ensemble run and one operational run that is doing that at this stage. Keep a very close eye on those midday runs. I'm recording this, they're coming out in about 2.5 hours time, so I'm going to keep a very close eye on those later on this afternoon into the evening, as I do think that will give us a very strong indication whether this is a proper wobble or whether this is just one anomalous run. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one anomalous run, but equally, GFS sometimes can just be crazy and predict something completely out of this world. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But at the moment, lots of disruption this week, and that's something we'll focus on in more detail in the next couple of days. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.